Greetings, folks. It's time for Best Bets, the Field of 68 Network. We are the three-man weave, and we are hosting the show as usual. Ready to talk some college hoops. We actually have a sizable slate today, guys. It's very exciting. Thank you to our sponsor, BetRivers, for endorsing the show. Before we get into it, though, guys, should we talk a little bit of takeaways? I know there wasn't a lot of hoops last night, but let's at least, see what we saw. Kai, what did you see out there last night?
Jim, I didn't see much of anything. Pitt, hey, they look pretty good at home. Another 1-point loss in ACC play. Again, their last 4 losses now combined 7 points. It's not a dumpster fire, Matt. It's not a dumpster fire.
No, it's not, Kai. I guess my takeaway, if I have to choose from the 3 games of last night, that watching Texas basketball, it sounds like just a chore. I'd rather do like any sort of house chore than watch that team play. Yeah, they won by 45, but I mean, Incarnate Word's a disaster. Every time I check the score, it's like a little to a little bit less. I know it's Chris Beard's style, but man, I'm curious to see how this team holds up when Big 12 play rolls around. And they got Westphal coming up this Saturday. I'm looking at the ears as a live dog in that one. I'm not on this
surprised.
Texas team.
Not shocked.
So if you're not in this Texas team, are you finally admitting that Incarnate Word is terrible?
Nope. It's a solid team, Jim, when they are healthy and they get into a nice little rhythm continuity. This will be a good basketball team.
They were healthy last night. Clasper came off the bench.
They actually had all guys on deck last night. It's like, hey, second game back, they're gonna be just like they were against Purdue, just fireballs from 3.
4 for 21 from 3. Says the guy that bet them against, or bet Purdue against them.
Hey, Kai, to go off your take, Pitt, not a dumpster fire. My boy Hughley. Mr. Rummage Sale Kofi had an 18-9 game. Love to see that. And guys, Notre Dame's not good, but at least Prentice Hub had a game winner. Maybe that's something he can build on. I don't know.
He needs to.
Yeah, they desperately need him to find some form. Otherwise, they're going to take some losses in ACC play. All right, guys, let's get into the slate. It's a fun one tonight. We've got some actual big games. The SEC is kicking off, some really, really good barn burners in that league, not including the dumb team behind me that's going to get absolutely demolished by Kentucky.
Nope, they're going to compete, Jim. They're going to compete.
Yeah, that's going to compete. True. That is incorrect. All right, let's start with Tennessee at Alabama. Vols on the road here. A little bit of a buy low, sell high spot, Kai. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this. People are jumping off the Alabama bandwagon after they lost at Memphis in the ultimate spot for the Tigers, and then the loss to Davidson in Birmingham. Meanwhile, Tennessee coming off the big win over Arizona in their own big spot, home crowd hype. I kind of think Alabama bounces back tonight, but apparently the market does too. It's up to 4 from 1.5. Is that too rich for your blood, Kai?
Yeah, a little bit. It got steamed, Jim, but I think Alabama's the right side here. I agree. I think people were overreacting to Alabama's loss to Davidson, their previous loss, obviously, to Iona back earlier in the season. A reminder, they beat Gonzaga, they beat Houston. It's a very, very good team. And now they're back at home. This is mostly a spot play, Matt, in terms of why I like one side or the other. It's the second true road game of the season for Tennessee. They're coming off an enormous win against Arizona. I really think Alabama handles business tonight. Can't really recommend 4, but certainly lean that way.
Yeah, we'll talk Auburn LSU here in a second, but similar spots in that you're basically looking at strong home courts for SEC teams that historically have great home venues. Teams that play well in front of their home crowd, Jim. I don't feel like the spread should be this high, but we know that the early money in the COVID world that we live in today probably implies a few guys, at least one, could be out for the Vols. I'm a Vol man. I'm not looking to come in here and go against the early market team until I know who the hell's playing. I mean, they are a deep team. So, I mean, it's a team that could, even if 2 starters are down for the Vols, it's not like that's going to put them in a tailspin. And they got plenty of dudes. I mean, they're playing, I think, 9-10 guys now that they've gotten healthier the last month or so. But still, I respect Alabama. I respect the home court. And when we talk about Auburn here in a second, it's basically the same narrative for me. Just don't fade the home SEC teams here.
Yeah, Matt, if you're looking at this Tennessee team and there's 1 or 2 names that would scare you if they're out, would that be, for me, it's Fulkerson and Chandler. I think if those guys are out, they're kind of like the heartbeats of the team.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, though, it's like they have multiple point guards with Ziegler and Vescovy and with how Conley's been playing. I know, I agree. Chandler's got a different gear, just a dynamo jitterbug. But I don't know, they're deep at all positions, man. So I like this team.
Yeah, I wrote this for Action Network and had my cutoff at 3, but if there are people out for Tennessee, I actually would consider 4 as well. I love Alabama right now in this spot, at least. The question for matchup wise is that they could get torched in the paint. Fulkerson just went off against an even better, much better front line for Arizona. But he did have the benefit of getting to the line a ton. I think there were some calls that went Tennessee's way in that game. Apologies, Vols fans. Yeah. But that is definitely the weakness of Alabama's defense. If Bediako can't stay on the floor, then they're going to be really, really small. But I think Alabama dictates the pace. I think the guards are ready to go in the hype home spot in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, I lean towards the Tide here. All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. I don't even have the chat open. I need to get that. So hopefully one of you is
I got it. I'm hawking. I'm scouring.
Good. Wow, man. Matt's stepping up. How about that?
I know.
All right, next one. As Matt mentioned, another SEC showdown. LSU heading to Auburn. Auburn's taking a little money. Kai, we know this opened a little higher than we were hoping. I think, as Matt mentioned, want to be in on these home teams, and Auburn's home court is massive. It's LSU's first true road game. They played Georgia Tech in Atlanta, but that doesn't count. It wasn't actually on the campus of Georgia Tech. I think that matters for a team that has fattened up its defensive rating by pressing less athletic teams, just demolishing teams. Like they're pressing like 30% of the time this year. First in the country in steal rate. I don't think that's going to be as easy to do on the road against easily the best team they've faced. I like Auburn. The number's tough, but I still lean towards the home Tigers in this one, Kai.
Yeah, I don't know if odds makers are listening to our show, Jim,
clairvoyant,
or other places. Ken Pom has a spread at Auburn -2. They have LSU 4 spots ahead of them in his analytic rankings. I think Bartorvik is similar. I have not checked his site. And yet this game opened up at 4. Frustrating for those of us who are looking to bet Auburn in this spot, because I still think, Matt, they might be the best team in the SEC, especially with Alan Flanagan getting back into the fold. And LSU's schedule, guys, I mean, they've certainly turboed teams, especially at the end of games. Their top wins are Belmont, Penn State on a neutral, Wake on a neutral, and La Tech on a neutral.
Right.
They haven't played anybody inside the top 55 of Ken Pom. Auburn is going to be a very tough test for them, especially in their first road trip. The line 4.5 is definitely high, but I still lean towards Auburn.
Yeah, Kyle, that's what I was looking at. Just going through LSU's resume to date, trying to make sense of how the hell they went from a laughably bad defensive team the last few years to literally the best defensive team in the country per Ken Pom's current adjusted defensive efficiency. You're right. Like Belmont and Liberty are good offensive teams, but those are 2 stratospheres below in terms of talent. The Auburn guards and wings are not going to be fazed by the swarming pressure that LSU is going to throw them. I don't think they will. They might maybe make some dumb decisions against the pressure, but they're not going to be scared or shook, as we saw some of the ball handlers for Texas State. Liberty, Belmont comes to mind. So, Jim, I think we're going to see LSU's defense not be exposed, but look more mortal than usual tonight. That's why I kind of think the Tigers are a good side here, especially at home, man. We know that crowd can get rocking. And when those guards are shooting with unabashed confidence, as they do so well at home, they can put on 10, 12, 15-point runs in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and I mean, you got Walker Kessler's one of the best rim protectors. You got a floor spacing big in Jabari Smith that spreads out that LSU defense a little bit. I just think the key is handling the pressure. And the teams they've played so far have been overwhelmed, like you just said, and Auburn shouldn't be. Sometimes it's good to press a fast team, but I don't think Auburn at home is going to be as phased by it as many of the LSU opponents have so far. But Matt, on your point about the LSU defense looking a little more mortal, the over is my best bet here, guys. LSU, Auburn over. It was 143 before. I see 144 now, so I will lock it in at 144. It's kind of close to the limit of where I want to play it. Opened at 140, so it's definitely been bet up.
Yep.
But I think we're going to have a ton of pace here. Both teams want to run offensively, got full court pressure from especially LSU, but Auburn might roll that out too. And yeah, the number was depressed by LSU's insane defense, skyrocketing up to number 1 in efficiency ratings. I don't think it's that good. I buy it long-term as like top 15, but into the SEC, I think they'll run into some more trouble. So over is my best bet. Sticking with the totals, the run I've been on, taking totals as best bets. I don't see why I should stop, Kai. It's been a pretty solid run.
Yeah, Jim, go ahead, man.
The over and the Undertaker, sort of, you're playing both sides, Jim. I like that. Hey, another thing in your favor, I'm looking at last year's matchup, 77 possessions, 104-80. That'd be a nice, easy winner chicken dinner. Nice little repeat of that this year.
Yeah, obviously last year's LSU team different on the defensive end than this one. Different. I think the tempo is indicative of
tempo is the key point there. Exactly.
Over 75 possessions is very likely here. All right, let's go Big East, guys. Another conference game here. Seton Hall finally getting the tip-off league play after they've been shut down. Providence hosting them at Dunkin' Donuts Center. Ed Cooley has said that Providence is going to be missing some guys. We don't know who yet. We don't know how key those guys are. And Seton Hall, maybe they don't have everyone back from their stoppage. So this one's a little bit dicey to handicap because you don't know who's going to be on the court. But I kind of lean towards Seton Hall just because I think they're going to be closer to full strength. They had the guys out they should be getting back, whereas Providence is kind of whack-a-mole with who's going to be on the court. I mean, your most important guys, Watson, Reeves, obviously need to look out for them, Al Durham even. But Matt, anything for you here? Do you think that roster absences help the under, or are you staying away from this game entirely?
I do lean under. What I'm curious why the money's moved it up. I actually have Providence as a slight favorite in this game, and I've been a Seton Hall backer for most of the season. Now, I know the Ike Obiagu injury situation is dicey. We've talked about what he means to that defense, how much he plays, how effective he is. If he does, is going to be a big question mark here against Nate Watson and some of the offensive rebounding, second chance, third chance opportunities that the Hall's going to look to attack. But Jim, I think the under is actually a decent play here. It's one of those weird things where, like the Tulane-Memphis matchup, we'll talk about in a little bit, we kind of have a sense of who's playing, who's not. This one, I think there's going to be some late surprises. So as you mentioned, I would tread lightly, wait to see a lineup before you hop in on either side.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of speculation on Providence guys being out of the lineup, Matt, because I agree. All things equal, I'd have them as a favorite as well. I was actually looking to bet Providence today, but the COVID stuff, you just can't. I'd steer clear, especially against a team like Seton Hall, who's actually good, a good opponent. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Yeah. Sometimes you're playing somebody you can just roll over anyways. But Obiagu is huge, like you said, against Nate Watson. He's extremely key. Nate Watson could have a field day without him in the lineup. So obviously it's a big check there. Seton Hall hasn't played in 17 days. We don't really know how this year's COVID pauses are going to affect teams, but last year overall it seemed to affect them at least a little bit. Certainly case by case. Providence is at home. I still lean towards the Friars, but definitely a stay away until we know who's in the lineup. Yeah,
Obiagu is like the ultimate matchup reliant key piece. Like he's huge in this one because Providence wants to pound it inside with the flex, feed Watson in the post. But as we mentioned on another show, like he's not great against Villanova where they want to spread you out and play 5 out. So it's all about the matchups. Obiagu, especially as a lumbering 7'2" guy. I hope he is back for this one. We don't know for sure though. I still lean towards Seton Hall. I'm a little against the fellow Weavers here. On my own pirate island here.
Arr.
All right, let's go back to the SEC before we hit the chat. We've got Arkansas headed on the road to Mississippi State. I believe I saw Tolu Smith and Rocket Watts are game time decisions for the Bulldogs. Guys, I don't think the preseason line would have been Mississippi State favored by 3. And I know that Arkansas fans would have said that was insane, considering they believed they were a top 10 or 15 team. I think this is about right, Matt. This is kind of where I settled. Maybe a lean towards Arkansas just because can they be this bad? But you're more of a buyer in Mississippi State than I am. Are you leaning towards the home Bulldogs, another SEC home team?
Right. Similar to my Seton Hall narrative, I feel like I should be on Arkansas here. Do we rope-a-dope the odds makers? We've been just throwing shade at them all season. And all of a sudden here we have a chance, in my opinion, to back them with decent value. Conference game, how you can make a case. It's a pretty good buy low, especially if Tolu Smith does not play. We're on record as saying Rocket Watts is basically an enigma. He's a nothing burger. You can get a good game, but for every good game, you get 3 bad games.
Might be less than neutral.
Yeah, it could be a little Ewing theory there. Kai, but maybe Arkansas is broken though too. I think that possibility certainly holds true. We didn't love this team coming in this season. I still like Mississippi State. I'm not playing Pick Suey, but if you think Pick Suey is better than they've played lately, this is the time to hop in.
Yeah, I like Arkansas here. Lead their way at +3, but it is like LSU, their first true road game. And in the past, we've seen Arkansas fare not quite as well on the road as they have been at home. They bounced back against Elon after that Hofstra loss. They've struggled with other teams, guys, as we've talked about many times on this show. Mississippi State's look solid. However, they're just 1-3 against top 100 teams in KenPom. Mississippi State's taking care of business against the low guys. Haven't quite been able to get it done against the better teams. It's just weird to me that, and KenPom supports this, so it's not super weird. This game is priced as if these teams are equals, or Mississippi State slightly better. Mississippi State 3.5 in some places. I don't buy that. I think Arkansas is still better than this team. And Mississippi State's rebound advantage, which they've had against every single team they've played this season, not going to happen against Arkansas, third best rebounding team in the country on the defensive end. So I lean towards Arkansas here. Hopefully they control the tempo, get out and transition a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm settling, kind of closer to an Arkansas bet, but not quite here. I mean, if you get up to 4, even 5 would be all over the Razorbacks, but I don't think we're going to see that number. So I don't know why I'm just rampantly speculating on that.
Hey, Jim, key part of this handicap. Eric Musselman is coaching today despite a torn rotator cuff.
That's
not
right.
sure if you guys put that in your handicap.
It's going to be
but
tough
he's
for
out
him to
there
get in the stance
with
with high hands.
Yeah, exactly.
On the sideline.
Like during those like that late spurt that we expect to see from Arkansas, maybe he's not getting the crowd. It's just like a one arm get up crowd. Well, I guess they're on the road, so you'll probably be silencing the crowd if you're trying there to start.
One of his players landed on him in practice. Pretty funny stuff.
Tough.
Well,
hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's okay.
Mississippi State got wiped out at home by Minnesota, so that home court is invincible. Although conference play is different.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to Chat Mob. Thankfully, Matt has been monitoring. I do have it open now, folks. So don't worry if you're throwing shade at me. I see it. What do you got, Matt?
They're flying in here. Let's start from the top. Ryan Abramowitz asking about Furman, Samford. Kai, I'm going to you here. A little SoCon showdown. Mm-hmm. We like the men in fur, but I want to back this Samford team. They are finally at full strength now. Buckyball is in full effect. They have talent. We've seen them play the best of the best competitively. The line does feel big, but I think the pace inflates the margin here. And so I think you have to be cautious when looking. If you're looking to back Samford, know that this spread's probably not as big as it looks, I guess.
Yeah, double-digit road dogs. A team in Samford who I think is going to be much better in SoCon play. Not, like you said, fully healthy. But Furman is just fine playing in transition. They are happy to run with Samford. So that gives me a little bit of pause. Lean towards the over in this game. It's super high, 150.5, but I think there's going to be points galore in this game.
Agree. All right, we'll stay in SoCon. Jim, Ethan asking about VMI Wofford.
Oh, take this one. Take this one. You like this one more.
I have a hot take here. I love the military men here. The Keydets been playing phenomenal basketball since they got their full semblance of characters back. It's just a big spread. I like Wofford a lot, so I feel confident that this number is too high. The Terriers are good, but they play slow. I worry that maybe they get what they want inside. They're phenomenal with their two-post offense, with how they've adapted. In the wake of Messiah Jones, they played very well. Still, I think VMI is legit. They're going to start to be playing back to the level we've seen them play the last 2 years under the Earl Renaissance that's going on there. Space Ace Kai, Iowa, Western Illinois, the Leathernecks. We know how good they've been. One of the mid-major darlings this season. I recall last season, Iowa just ran roughshod over a pretty decrepit Rob Jeter team this season. Now they go back there, and I think the guys on that team last season remember what happened. They know they're better. Maybe they come out with a little more fight, but Iowa's a large favorite, man. That's a strong spot, strong team there.
Yes, but Western Illinois looked pretty human the last few games, which gives me pause. And Iowa is a team I'm not really looking to fade as a big favorite at home in a weird non-conference spot. Western Illinois has already started conference play. They probably don't give a whole lot of crap about this game. So I think there's a chance Iowa blows them out. The total is 160. I mean, there's going to be possessions galore in this game. I'm staying clear away. I would not feel comfortable betting the Leathernecks.
I like the under. I know that's crazy, but
yeah, that is crazy.
I think I like the under there. Western Illinois, not actually that fast offensively, like 209th in possession length. They're not looking to run as much as you think.
It's also a massive total, 161. So
yeah, that 90 to 70 is a winner.
Is a winner. So yeah, Jim, okay, you may have convinced me. After the show, I have to hop in on a little side action here. Jim, staying with you, going over to you for some Colonial action. Delaware traveling to UNC Wilmington. I like the Hens. They're going to be presumably at full strength. They've had a couple of guys in and out of the lineup the last few games. Not a deep team, but we feel confident that everyone will be intact today. First conference game on the road. I just think they're a better team. I think the home court's a little bit overinflated in the current line. What do you look at?
Yep, I like Delaware. UNC Wilmington has been bad this season, and maybe there's a little bit of shooting regression to come for them, but that win over Campbell is a little deceiving. Campbell, I think, had like 2 points over the final 8 minutes or something. Wilmington's not that good of a defensive team. I like Delaware here, Matt. I think it's been bet up a hair, but the Hens, if you get Ryan Allen back from suspension, I think that's the side.
Yeah, sit them at 4.5. I wouldn't go any higher than 5. Delaware does tend to get caught in the mud sometimes. They don't really have that spurt ability that Arkansas has for sure. So they need to, I think, get an early lead and maintain it. It's kind of a slow crock pot type of win is what you're looking for. Kai, I know you're just dying to talk Mizzou hoop, baby. And the Tigers are going on the road there without Kwanzo Martin, your fearless leader in COVID protocol. But I have a nice little inside intel angle here, talking to top assistant Cornell Mann, who I had a lovely conversation with over the break. He is leading the troops into battle. He is on the scout. He has a plan and a master scheme to shut down the big fella inside. Can the Tigers hang around?
Sheboy is going to have 30 rebounds. I think they're going to put Kobe Brown on him, and he's going to get absolutely slaughtered. 20.5. Gosh, it feels high, but think about the KU spread, right? 23-24. KU 3.5 points better than Kentucky on a neutral or playing Mizzou. I don't know. It's kind of something you need to think about here. I'm staying far, far away, Matt. My number probably leans slightly towards Mizzou, but the people that are betting Kentucky right now, that's just fine. I totally understand why you're doing that.
I think Kentucky smokes it. Mizzou against good competition is a joke.
I took
As
Mizzou
we've seen
small.
so far.
I did. I took Mizzou for 8.
Florida State, Kansas, Illinois. It's pathetic.
It's been bad. And Kentucky has looked invincible the last 2 games. I think we're going to be talking about Kentucky in that creme de la creme group in a week or two. They're not quite there yet. They're not accepted by the masses there. They're going to get there.
Well, if they don't cover against Mizzou, I'm not putting them in that creme. That's what I'll say.
Hey, the boys will be feisty today. That's what I'm saying. All right, we're John Doe asking about Syracuse Cornell, Jim. We just saw the Orange go lights out from long distance, demolished Brown, who, as good as Cornell's played, but Brown's probably the better team. Just trying to look at those two side by side. Do you think Syracuse sort of outclasses another, similar type team, a team that they're probably not as exposed athletically by?
I think probably Cornell can shoot better than Brown can, so you've got better options against the zone. Most importantly, I think this one goes not way over. It's a monster total, but Cornell plays as fast as anybody in the country. They're going to try to beat the zone down the floor. Syracuse is more than happy to play up tempo and get a bunch of shots up. So I think this is like a 100-90 game or something. Like this is going to be a shootout.
It's the Jimmy Boeheim Jr. Bowl, baby. Everyone's excited about that. Let's hit a couple more here. Rapid fire, Kai. Extra board. Matt Akers, Merrimack, St. Francis, Brooklyn. The Terriers been a little tug of war in the market. What are you looking at?
Yeah, it's strange. It's been bet down a little bit. I lean towards Merrimack, but maybe someone knows something I don't. I'm still not a big fan of the Brooklyn team. Although Merrimack, hey, let's remember they barely got by Maine, and that was just depressing.
Yeah. Merrimack is a favorite's tough. They are so slow. Yes. Laying points is tough with them.
Agree. Jim, I have a hot take here, but feel free to tell me why I'm an idiot. I think you know where I stand. Matt Winnick asking about Buffalo, Miami, Ohio. The Redhawks were awesome to start. They've lost, I believe, 5 straight, but a lot of close losses. They've looked competitive in all those games. Buffalo beat them emphatically all 3 times last season. There's some early market came in on the Bulls. I wonder if they're looking at those matchups last year and see a repeat. What do you see here?
Yeah, I think this is where Buffalo thrives. They out-athlete teams in the MAC. They're much bigger. Like the backcourt for Miami, Ohio is tiny. And I think that's a problem against against Buffalo's athleticism. It's a kind of a big number. Miami, Ohio's competent. They're not a bad squad, but unfortunately, Matt, I lean away from you. I lean towards the Bulls.
Yeah, like I said, I took Miami based purely on a price perspective. You weave in that matchup layer, as Jim said. Just look at last season. I mean, those results were not even competitive. You think when you play a team 3 times, one of those 3, you at least get close. Now, it was a blowout, 3 straight tilts. Last one here, Kai. Graham asking about Illinois State, Wisconsin. One of these weird 9th hour non-conference showdown games. We have to assume that Tyler Harris is not Tyler Harris. Who am I saying? Tyler Davis. Excuse me.
Johnny
Davis. I'm mixing up first and last names today. Should return. Had a non-COVID illness last game. Probably going to play here. Do you think Illinois State's a chance to be competitive?
Kind of. I lean towards Wisconsin.
I do too.
Illinois State, again, it's just a weird timed non-conference game here. I'm leaning towards the way better team. Illinois State's been really good the last 2 games, but they played Ball State, a team I'm not a believer in. They've played UTSA, a team I'm definitely not a believer in. Hard to kind of reconcile that and call them a good team or a feisty dog here. I'm leaning towards Wisconsin.
I think Illinois State's had a little fluky shooting. The one thing to watch out for is that the George Mason Wisconsin game got canceled because of Wisconsin COVID. So there might be some Badgers out for this one. So keep an eye on the lineup. Good point.
Yeah. I like Wisconsin, though. I think Illinois State likes to play fast. Cannot do that against the Badgers. Even though the Badgers are running more this season, it's just not a team you can beat in transition. All right. I'm putting a pin in it there, Jim. Let's get back to it.
All right. Back to the outline. We're going to more conference play. It is the ACC, and Matt, we're going to go back to you because I know you have a team in this matchup you have felt is one of your darlings all season. So Wake Forest at Louisville. Louisville took money right away, and then it's kind of settled back down around 5. There's a little bit of tug back from Wake Forest backers. I like the total, Matt, but do you have a side play for your Louisville Cardinals?
I don't. I have to respect what Wake's done. We know that Jake LaRavia is coming back today. He's been a key piece inside. They have multiple scores, and God, Alondas Williams has been just an absolute monster so far. But LaRavia gives them that inside-out scoring balance. The key thing here, Kyle Louisville coming off COVID pause. It sounds like everyone's going to be back in the fold.
No,
all COVID.
Chris Mack,
almost everyone. Sorry.
Almost everyone. Yeah,
almost everyone. So the question, and again, another example of a deep team. I think Louisville can withstand 1 or 2 guys being out, in my opinion. But Kyle Louisville's not been good enough, as much as I like them, to justify laying just under a touchdown here. So I'm staying away.
I think this is a buy low, sell high game here. Louisville's off the 10-point loss to Western Kentucky. They dropped 10 spots in KenPom from that game alone. I still think they're a very, very good team. Wake has obviously been great. Matt, Wake hasn't played in 12 days either. They haven't played in a while. I just think this is a game where Louisville outclasses Wake. ACC play at home. They want to start fresh here. Much better defensive team. And I think their offensive struggles start to turn around in this game. So I actually lean towards Louisville at -5.
Yeah, I like the over. I'm with you on the offensive struggles turning around a bit, and Wake Forest can score too. So I like the over. All right, next game. I was waiting for Matt. I was like, well, we're still in chat, right? Matt's got this. Nope.
Hey, they're flying. I'm scribbling like a madman right now.
Attaboy. I'm going Big East. I can't believe this game is on the outline, guys. You told me 4 weeks ago this would be, and I would say, no way. But we've got DePaul at Butler, Chicago's Big East team, headed to Hinkle Fieldhouse. Kai, they were a favorite for a little bit. The Blue Demons coming off a COVID pause, heading to a Butler team that is healthier. We got Chuck Harris out there. There's even a chance that Enzi and Hodges play for Butler. Yeah. What were people seeing with DePaul, man? Is they just like, are they that for real that people thought they could win on the road at Butler?
I think they're kind of for real. Number one. Yeah. Opening a favorite in some places, like, yikes. I get that Butler's been bad. Are they that bad? I don't think so. They've been banged up, man. And Chuck Harris back in the lineup's enormous, obviously. I'm hoping Enzi plays. He's a big factor against DePaul's size. David Jones, Ongenda have been incredible this year. But even if he's not in, I think Butler still has an advantage here. Hinkle Fieldhouse, man. First conference game, I mentioned it before. Fresh start. Wipe the slate clean. Butler, get the bad non-conference taste out of your mouth. We know DePaul has been brutal in Big East play since the start of eternity. So I think Butler comes to play here, mucks it up, and gets the W. -2, getting to a point where it's a little too high for me to take, but lean their way.
I'd still take -2, Jim. The key matchup thing for me here is Aaron Thompson, a ball hawk at the point of attack, and DePaul's offense is so much revolved around Javon Freeman-Liberty making plays, making shots. Now, David Jones has been an awesome Robin right alongside him, but everything starts with JVL, and his surgence to NBA prospect status has been pretty impressive. They have length, they have size, and when they play hard, they can be terrifying defensively. But I think if you can neutralize DePaul's, cut the head off of the snake, if you will, that offense can look a lot more mortal. And I think Butler has a good home crowd, some juice there. This is a great spot to back the Bulldogs. As scary as that sounds, given how they played this season.
I'm chuckling. I think you said JVL, so I like thinking of his name as Vreeman Liberty.
JFL. JVFL.
The matchup thing I like here is that Butler's not going to let DePaul run, and DePaul's been awesome in transition this year. David Jones is just a wrecking ball when he's in the open floor. But DePaul's going to try to keep this game grinding in the half court, not let DePaul get out in the open court. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Butler starts off Big East play here with a W at home against the Blue Demons. All right, let's go to the AAC. Team that everybody loves to talk about, Memphis. They're heading down to the Bayou, taking on Tulane. We know that there are some personnel deficiencies for the Tigers here, Matthew. Duren and Williams are both out, as reported this morning. They didn't even travel. And Imani Bates likely out too. I think he is traveling, so it's not COVID for him, but he's got a hand issue.
Yep.
So as a guy that leans Tulane, I'm bummed that Imani Bates is not going to play because I think he is one of the highest net negative players in the game right now because of his shot selection and defensive lack of interest, lack of awareness, I think. But Tulane's coming off their own COVID pause. Jalen Cook is coming off a hamstring injury, their most important player. Is the Duren Williams absence enough to back Tulane, or are you staying away?
I'm staying away, and I'm confused as to why, right? We feel pretty confident based on the reporting that Tulane will have their full set of players. You mentioned Jalen Cook returning. He's been great at the point of attack, just a burly lead guard. Hunter got swept by Penny last season. I think this one's different. I'm not saying Tulane wins this game. I think it's going to be competitive. You're catching a pretty big number. I know Tulane's playing faster. I almost would prefer Tulane kind of back to the slow it down, more half court, tricky zone that we've seen Hunter play in the past just for this game to cover a double-digit spread. But I think they played good enough to justify taking 10.5.
It's 9 right now. I would
down to 9.
I wouldn't take it there.
9. Wow.
People jumped on 10.5 after the injury news came out. It's a weird game because both these teams have been out for a while. Memphis 15 days, Tulane 22 days. When both teams are out, I think that kind of washes, right? So I don't think there's a huge COVID advantage here for Memphis coming back. And clearly with guys out, have to lean towards Tulane. Tulane's going to force a ton of turnovers. Memphis should grab a billion boards, but those two guys, Williams, Duren being out, and Hunter's zones have the ability to confuse Memphis. I am confident he's going to bring those zones back after this game, Matt. And then a word of warning, maybe a good sign for Tulane backers. Ron Hunter is notorious for fouling until the very end of the game. I mean, he can be down 12, 13, doesn't matter. He is going to foul. And they had a game last year, I believe, where this actually came into play. Memphis is such a bad free throw shooting team. Tulane actually got the cover last season because he kept on fouling. Maybe that happens once again. Lean towards Tulane slightly at 9.
Kai, that's a great point. The back door is always going to be open here.
Always.
Yeah. And Duren and Williams are two of their not as good free throw shooters. So that does, hurt that angle a little bit, but Memphis still not like a lights out free throw shooting team that you trust late to knock them down. So yeah, I like Tulane there. I already gave my best bet. I'm not adding Tulane to the slate at 9, but definitely lean towards the green wave.
Get wavy, fellas. Good luck.
Last one on the outline. I got a little rogue here going with a non-conference test here, but Nevada headed to Kansas. This is a replacement game. I think Kansas was I forget who they were supposed to play, but they tagged
Harvard.
Nevada. Harvard, thank you. There you go.
Yeah,
I love that Kai's all over it. That a boy.
Gotcha.
But this one's been bet up, Matthew. Kansas taking money in Allen Fieldhouse, which I think makes sense. It's kind of the last game before conference play, late scheduling, maybe a little bit of a coaching edge for the Jayhawks here. They've got a ton of offensive weapons the way Agbaji and Brown are playing. Do you take the Jayhawks here at this higher number? Or are you starting to think maybe we punch back with Nevada?
Yeah, the whole last second schedule thing confuses me. I'm not really sure what to make of that. The one thing I like matchup wise for Nevada is that they have big time size. I mean, their front line, they go 2 for a twin tower with Warren Washington, 7-footer, and Will Baker, 7-footer, who's played really well this year. Former Texas transfer, I think fringe top 50 recruit. He seems to have had a reincarnation there playing for Steve Alford. And you have Grant Sherfield, Kai, who is erratic but ultra talented. He's a guy that can go for 30. And typically when teams go into Fog Island and compete, you have kind of an all-star breakout performance. Guys just make shots. And Sherfield's a guy, and even Cambridge to a lesser extent can also do that too. But man, KU's just been so good. I'm just in no interest. I have no interest in fading them right now.
Yeah, it's a weird game, man. I don't know how Nevada is motivated for this game. They're starting Mountain West play on Sunday. It's a weird trip to Fog Island. My gut says Kansas, but you look at the spread, 17.5. Should Kansas ever be favored by 17.5 against Nevada? I don't know. Nevada hasn't been great this year, but
they've been better since they
better
ditched
lately.
their AJ Brahma problem.
It's not a low major team. It's a very, very good high major squad. Kansas has the matchups for Sherfield. They have the matchups for Washington. That's a little concerning from a matchup perspective, but that spread feels really high. I'm probably leaning towards Nevada from a pure number perspective.
Yeah, interestingly, the spread has been bet up. The total's down 3-4 points. So people it's out on Nevada's offense. I guess that's kind of what the the tea leaves tell you in that one. But I think Nevada can score with them enough that hanging around is possible. I'm not touching this game, to be totally transparent, not betting side or total, but it does feel a little high on the spread.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, just a quick announcement. The fastest line movement I've ever seen, Tulane is down to 6, as so astutely pointed out by some folks in the chat there. So if there's anyone else out, please let us know. I'm not seeing any other news, but that's a nuts move.
Yeah, it was a little delayed too, because the Memphis reporting came out.
Right.
10 was still available, went down to 9 early in our show, but wow, 6. Holy cow. All right, let's get back to the chat mob, Matt. I know they're talking up quite a bit of games. It's just nice to have a big slate back. So I get it. There's a lot of games to discuss. What do you got for us, Mr. Matthew?
I believe we have 3 NEC extra boards to hit, but let's start with some slightly, I don't want to say more relevant, but main board, higher liquidity. You can bet more on these games, Kai. Colonial, because we have so many whales watching our show, obviously, that can look into bet 10K game.
Huge liquidity concern.
Huge liquidity, exactly, which is what we're trying to be cognizant of here. Hofstra, William and Mary. The poor tribe have not covered a game all year. I have no reason to believe they will today against one of the most dominant mid-major juggernauts in the country. Do you have any reason to defend Bill and Mary?
No, they still haven't covered a game against the spread, and they have personnel issues still. Yuri Covington, I don't think is going to play. There's another guy too.
Tyler Rice.
Tyler Rice. I mean, look, no one on William Mary is good, but those guys are important to the team. So I'm leaning towards Hofstra, who's been a wagon, knock on wood. Spreads 15.5. It's huge, especially on the road. In a Colonial game, this conference is competitive every single year. Like dogs cover all the time in this league. I just think Hofstra is just on another planet. William Mary might be bottom 20 team in the country right now, at least the way they're playing.
Yeah, Hofstra should be motivated road favorite here. Maybe even get Zach Cooks back. They've been awesome without him. Like, it hasn't mattered. But yeah, I lean towards the Pride. You can't back William and Mary until they show any semblance of life.
Right. Yeah, they have no identity. It's not only it's a young team,
but their identity is we suck.
We suck. That's what it is. But yeah, when you have a bad team who's hurt, young, and still trying to find out how to play, that's just like a recipe for disaster, as we've seen. Jim, SMU Tulsa, your boy Frank Haith against our beloved ponies.
Frank Haith has weirdly been a cover.
Yes, I know.
Like
that's why I said your boy.
Bet for me, where we've been higher on the market than Tulsa, and they've come through for us, and it makes no sense, and it confuses me and gives me a lot of conflicting internal emotions. But I made the spread right about what it is, Matt. Yeah, SMU is kind of a tough team to figure out. I would lean that way just because I trust Kendrick Davis more than anyone else on the court, coaches, players included. But it's not one I want to bet, unfortunately.
Yeah, nothing for me there. Kai, I'll get you with the first extra. Wagner, St. Francis, PA. Jim, you're going to take down Central Connecticut Bryant right after that. The Red Flash, Kai, struggled lately, had a really bad effort before Christmas. Rob Krimmel was not very pleased with his fella's performance. And Wagner has been a wagon, and we've been on that one all season. But this spread is big for a conference game. That is all I will say.
Yes, Wagner was steamed. Looks like it's back down to 7, so a little pushback on the Flash there.
On our side, good.
Really, really tough travel for Wagner. I mean, they are by far the best team in this conference. Maybe Bryant is up there too. But St. Francis is tough. Them and Sacred Heart are teams that it doesn't really matter who's on this team. They tend to compete in the NEC, even against good competition. So I actually lean towards them at +7 at home. I think they can compete with Wagner, or at least keep it close.
Yeah, as long as Dixon Conover's on the court.
As long as he's on the court. He's like the only guy that matters for this team. So check the lineup.
Matt, for Bryant, Central Connecticut, another big spread in conference play, but I still like Bryant. I think Central Connecticut's still figuring out who they are with the new coach. A lot of youngsters on that squad. And Bryant was really good in NEC play last year, struggled to step up in competition in the non-con this year, but I think they're going to assert themselves, start league play, and they get Peter Kiss and Hall Alexius back.
Yes.
They're arguably two of their 3 best players. So that's huge.
Yeah, Bryant's, when their shots start falling, I think they're going to be a good buy low here. As a Wagner Conference title future holder, I'm a little worried that Bryant could be a dark horse here to sneak up on them, especially now they're going to have to be fully healthy.
Yeah, Peter Kiss is not a 23% 3-point shooter. That will go up. That will go up.
No, he is not. And as Kai or Jim mentioned too, Ramir Dixon Conover means the world for the Red Flash. RDC. Let me get my 3 My acronyms right there.
Kevin Brown just mentioned Wagner under in the chat. I agree with that. Wagner
I agree too.
The red flash under. I think that's going to be a little more of a drag out street fight kind of game.
Yep. Wagner takes some bad shots. They're good. They're talented. They make them, but they take some really questionable shots.
And they mix defenses that forces you to kind of like figure out what they're in. You have to stop and see like, all right, which disgusting zone is it this time?
Yep. So. They really befuddled Fairfield with that. Jim, Michigan State, High Point. I know you have some good data on the Sparty as a large favorite.
Yeah, I mean, there's personnel concerns. Bingham and Christie are out. That's two starters. Their best shot blocker, probably their best shooter. That said, they're pretty deep, and Michigan State dominates bad teams at Breslin. They're 20-10 against the spread. Their last 30 as a 20-point home favorite, 20 or more. And if you take out last year when they were not good, they're 20-6. Like they were 0-4 last year. So if you want to throw that out, and I think you can, they cover like crazy as a big home favorite. And I think they do that again today.
Yeah. I don't think I see any other chatter, just more people piling on the Memphis news. Kai, what did I miss?
NC State Miami was asked about an ACC game that wasn't on our schedule.
ACC, yes.
I lean towards NC State. I don't really understand this spread. That's all I got.
Yeah, I do too. I'm surprised Matt's not on this with the old 0-1 versus 1-0 evenly matched teams here. NC State's the 0-1 team. They are heading on the road, but I think they're going to be a little more desperate. Miami just lost Harlan Beverly for the year, but he hasn't played. Like that doesn't matter. Shouldn't matter handicap at all. I just think NC State is roughly equal, and with that angle, I lean towards the pack on the road.
Apologies to my guy Jay Rush. I did have this written down and just glossed over it on my little notepad here, scribbling too quickly, I suppose. Not exactly an exciting game. Morehead State versus Eastern Illinois. Man, if you're putting a Mount Rushmore of teams I don't need to watch play basketball, EIU has to be on that pantheon. Their lineup rotation is a different group of guys every game. Marty Simmons is soul searching for how he's going to instill his Marty ball, whatever he's trying to do there. It's not working. This team's not good, Kai, but Morehead is a large favorite. Doesn't excite me either.
Morehead or nothing for me.
Matt, one of the other teams that should be on that Mount Rushmore is IUPUI, and Morehead just beat them by a zillion. And I think Morehead can do that too, motivated in league play. EIU's bad, man. They're bad.
One more here. Gardner-Webb, Georgia. Do you want to talk about that? Actually, we discussed this yesterday, I think. We have not yet. Jim, I know you like them running Bulldogs. It's got bet up, actually. So if you're looking to back Jim's side here, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, I think you get in on G-Web here. I think they win outright. Georgia's bad, and they lost to East Tennessee State at home despite a fireworks shooting display from Noah Bauman. Gardner-Webb's good, and as we discussed offline, Matt, this isn't a mid-major team walks in like, oh, we're just going to get stomped. We're cashing a paycheck here. Like this is, we can beat Georgia, and we might do it. So I think Gardner-Webb's like the slightly better team. So I lean that way. Road dog.
Yeah, just one of these power conference teams, when they're playing solid mid-majors, they're always going to be against the ropes because you have hyper-motivated mid-majors that want to beat them. They want to tout that they beat a power conference team. Right. And yeah, poor Tommy Crane, my guy, man. Just tough go at this year, just to put it lightly. Yeah, that's all we got.
Crush them too.
Injuries have murdered that team. Exactly. I think that's all we got. If I missed anything, cut me off. But let's unveil our best bets.
That's right. Who's up first? I'll go first just because I've already given mine. It was the LSU-Auburn over 144. I think we see a lot of points, up and down game. LSU's defense, not as immortal as it's seemed so far. Matt, let's go to you next for your best bet.
I'm going to enroll in Toledo Faders Anonymous once again. I believe they burned me. They did burn me when I backed Marshall. That was an indictment on Marshall. And Western Michigan is a bad basketball team. They've played basically 3 good games all season, and they've shot the lights out in those games. So I'm basically making a case for Toledo here. B. Artis White is a key guy for the Broncos. He debuted last game. I hope he plays at least 20 minutes here. And they actually have a size advantage up front. Again, I think there's an avenue for Western Michigan to score points. For a road dog first conference game, Kai, this spread is enormous. I like the Broncos at plus 17 or higher.
All right. Hey, I'm taking a scary one too, Matt. Air Force plus 12 is my best bet. Scary against Utah State, a team that's basically crushed them every time the last 2 years, like by 40. Hasn't been competitive. So why do I like Air Force? It's a good question. Well, it feels high. Air Force is a lot better at home than they are on the road. They're 3-1 against the spread this year at home. This is a better Air Force team than last year. Seems like Joe Scott's finally gotten through to his guys. they just play an extremely ugly type of game. They slow it down as slow as you can make it. If they execute even a little bit, they can cover this spread because of the possession count. It's going to be probably under 60, at least I'm hoping. Again, first conference game. Love the angle of a double-digit dog, especially at home. Nothing fancy here on the cap, but Air Force plus 12 is the best bet.
Yeah, Utah State had some guys out last game. We think they'll be back in full strength,
Probably, yeah.
but maybe they're banged up and not completely ready to roll. All right, guys, I believe that's it. That's our best bets. We've gotten through all the chat. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. It's great to have a full slate back. We've got a relatively sizable one tomorrow as well, so we will be back at the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. See you then. Thank you again to BetRivers. Thank you to the Field of 68 for having us. Good luck on your bets tonight.